Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Wa sallallahu sallam mubarak ala Rasulillah. Wa ala alihi wa sahbihi. Amma ba'd. In our last lesson, we were explaining the 10th and 11th line of the Manzuma. And I believe that we also went and explained the 9th line. And we were speaking about a few more categories of the Anwa' ulum al-Hadith, the different specimens of sciences of tradition, the different subcategories of al-mustalah, hadith terminology or lingo. Khair, inshallah. We explained the term called al-muttasil. We also explained the term called al-musnad. Then we went on to explain line 10, in which the author speaks about that which is called al-musalsal, the musalsal narration, which means a hadith in which all of the narrators from beginning to end mention a specific way or specific type or style in which they heard or got the report, whether it's something verbal, whether it's something physical, whether it was something that was said to the student, to the master, whatever the case may be. We made examples of this and we explained this in detail. The author then says in line number 12, Aziz marwi ithnaini aw thalatha, Mashur marwi fawqa thalatha, or fawqa ma thalatha. Aziz marwi ithnaini aw thalatha, Mashur marwi fawqa ma thalatha. Line number 12, the author says, Aziz. He says the hadith which is called Aziz, or the type of hadith which is described to be Aziz, he says marwi ithnaini aw thalatha, is reported by either 2 or 3. Mashhuru, and the hadith which is called Mashhur, is that which is reported fawqa ma thalatha, by more than 3 narrators. More than 3 narrators. In this 12th line right here, the author speaks about 2 different categories. The first one is called Al-Aziz, just like a person's name. Okay, and we know Al-Aziz is from the Asma al-Husna, the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you know a brother, a friend who's called Abdul Aziz. Okay. This is the first type. Second type is that which is called Al-Mashhur. Al-Mashhur. Linguistically, the word Aziz comes from 1 or 2 meanings. The first is that it is something that is rare and sacred, something that is extremely hard to find and scarce. Not necessarily sacred, but scarce. Okay. And the second meaning of the word is that which is powerful, that which is strong, that which is solid. Okay, that's what the word Aziz linguistically means. Nothing to do with the hadith science, but that's the linguistical breakdown of the word. As for al-mashhur, then it's a very simple, basic vocabulary word in the Arabic language that most beginners learn, which is that which is famous, something that is well known and popular, renowned. Okay, infamous, however you want to word it. Now, what does it mean in the hadith science or the hadith terminology? We say Aziz, the author said, is the hadith that is reported by 2 or 3 reporters. 2 or 3 reporters. To make things simple, according to the author, a hadith that has 2 companions who narrated it, at least 2 of the tabi'in who narrated it, another 2 from the atba' tabi'in who narrated it, until it was collected and put into a book, until it was put into a kitab, compiled into a book. That hadith will be called what, according to the author? It will be called Hadithun Aziz. Or if it was 3 companions and 2 tabi'is, 3 tabi'is and 5 atba' tabi'in, or 6. In other words, it doesn't matter how high it goes, but it can't reach a minimum. It can't go beneath 2 or 3 according to the author. If it goes beneath 2 or 3 narrators in every single level of the isnad, then that hadith is not called Aziz according to the author. Now, unfortunately right now, we don't have the whiteboard, which is very important. And we need to get this done with Azza wa Jal, facilitate it, that way we can write this out. It's vital that it be written down and you can visually see an illustration of this. In other words, the Prophet ﷺ, he says something, or he does something, okay? Or they see him doing something, or a description of him, as we explained before. Who narrates this? Who told us that the Prophet ﷺ used to use the miswak whenever he went into his home? It couldn't have been a tabi'i, because a tabi'i, as we explained in our classes, they never met the Prophet ﷺ. They were tabi'een, okay? They were predecessors. They were disciples of the Sahaba. The Sahaba met the Prophet ﷺ. So the first level of the isnad is the Sahabi. After the Sahabi, who does the Sahabi pass the hadith on to? Who does he tell it about? Who does he write to? The Tabi'i. The Tabi'i, the one who heard and studied with him. And the Tabi'i he passes it on to his pupil. And they are called the Atba' Tabi'in, those who never met the companions, but they met the first generation of the Kibar Tabi'in, or they met the Tabi'in. Clear on this? And then the next generation, depending on how long the chain is. Such, for example, Malik ibn Anas, rahimahullah, he goes from Malik, Nafi' ibn Umar, and then Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Imam Malik, who died in the year 179 of the Hijrah, he only has two people between him and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Nafi' and Ibn Umar, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Clear? So therefore, this example, this chain would not be Aziz hadith, because there's only how many companions? Just one. Even though it's not a necessary condition that both people be in one chain of one person's book. But in other words, this is what we found. Of all of the Sahaba, we only found 3 who narrated from the Prophet ﷺ. And then they passed it on, depending on how many Tabi'een or Tabi'een took it, that will be considered Aziz or not. Everybody clear on this? Now you may ask the question, what is the purpose of this? We say the purpose of it is, it goes back to the linguistical breakdown of the word, of the term. If it comes from the meaning of something that's scarce, then we say the type of this type of hadith is what? It's scarce. Not too often you're going to find a hadith like this. Or if you say it's derived from something to mean, or something that means it's powerful and it's strong, obviously 2 narrators, in general, we said in general, hypothetically, 2 narrators are stronger than 1 narrator. 3 narrators are stronger than 2 narrators. Okay, from a theoretical point of view, okay? Theoretically speaking. Because it could be one person who's stronger than 10 people, depending on that level of the level of his memorization and him sticking to his sheikh and his expertise in the science of hadith. But from a theoretical point of view, 5, 6, 10, 3 is stronger than 1 or 2. وهكذا, so on and so forth. Clear? So therefore, this is the meaning of the word or the term Aziz. This is a breakdown of it scientifically, and this is the benefit and the fruit of it. And this is what these scholars of hadith have classified. Okay? Now everything may not be clear. You may have some more questions, or how is it like that? At an elementary stage, a beginning stage, these questions we don't ask. We don't ask these type of questions. We learn, we introduce ourselves, we familiarize ourselves with the terms, and then that's it. And then we walk on and we move on. Clear, as we explained in the beginning of the lesson. He then says, Mashuru, the next type of hadith, that was called Mashur. And it's a hadith that has 3 or more narrators in every single level. Every level of the isnad. Okay? There are differences of opinion. There are other views of some of the people of knowledge with regards to, does it have to be in every single level or just one level. We're not going to get into that right now. We're going to stick with that which is apparent from the poem. Ma foka ma thalatha. Okay? 3 or more. Regardless, whether it's 3 or more people in every single level of the isnad, 3 or more companions, 4 tabi'is, and 5 tabi'in, until it reach the book of Imam Malik or the book of Imam Ahmed, for example. Or if it's just one tabaqah. In other words, only one companion narrated. Anas narrated it, but 3 of his students took it. Or 5 of his students took it and they passed it on to only 2 of the tabi'in. In other words, in the second piece of the link, how many people are there? 5. So it's above 3. So according to the author of this hadith, is called Al-Mashur. Hadithun Mashur. Now, before we move on, because we don't want to get stuck on this too long, okay, Mashur has two meanings. Something that is generally mashhur, and something that is scientifically mashhur. A hadith that can be famous, it doesn't mean that it's authentic. Okay, and these words cannot be quoted enough. A hadith that is famous, that is well known, does not mean that hadith is authentic and genuine. It does not mean that. Rather, there are many hadith that are famous, known to every Muslim, that are baseless, false, bogus, spurious hadith. The Prophet never ever said those words. Some of those hadith have chains, have isnads, others have no isnads, period. So therefore, something that is linguistically famous or culturally famous doesn't mean that it is what? Mashhur, according to the science of hadith. And this is very, very important. Now, before we get lost or trapped into this concept, because this is very, very vital, let's make an example or two. The hadith that says that paradise lies at the feet of your mothers. The paradise lies at the feet of your mothers. It's a very, very, very famous hadith. There are non-Muslims who know this hadith. I've experienced this. There are Muslims that are totally non-religious. Sinful Muslims, outwardly sinful Muslims. Muslims have no concern about the deen. And they'll quote that hadith on you. They'll quote that hadith on you. Okay? Did the Prophet say that? Is that an actual hadith? Does it have a chain of narration? Is it authentic? That hadith is totally baseless and batil. The Prophet, he never said that. Rather, there's an authentic hadith that's collected in a sahih, in which the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said, go and serve your mother because Jannah will be at her feet. Jannah is at her feet. In other words, he said this hadith is speaking about one companion and one woman. He did not say that paradise lies beneath the feet of the mothers. No, the Prophet never said that. Jannah is not beneath the feet Jannah is not beneath the feet of women or of men. The Prophet never said those words, but it's a very famous, popular hadith. You understand? So this is an example on how hadith can be distorted and can be misused and twisted up and passed on. There lies no doubt kind treatment to one's mother, benevolence to one's mother, respect of one's mother, service and humbleness to one's mother is from the greatest reasons of entering paradise. There's no doubt about that. As Allah says in the Quran, وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ لَا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ بِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. Allah says, and your Lord has ordained that you worship Him and none but Him, and that you treat your parents good. Okay? There are other hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ was asked, who is the person who deserves my best treatment? He says, your mother, and your mother 3 times. So the status of the woman in Islam, especially the mother, there lies no doubt, is paramount. But that word, or that wording, that hadith, the Prophet never said that. He never said that, even though it's famous. Another example of this is the hadith that says, حُبُّ الْوَطَنِ مِنَ الْإِيمَانِ. Love of one's country is from faith. Love of a person's hometown is a part of Iman. There's another bogus, batil hadith which the Prophet never ever said, and it's become widespread among the people. How can love of one's country be from Iman? What if you come from a place that's not a Muslim country, in which there are no Muslims? You're the only Muslim. Is that also from Iman? Has nothing to do with Iman. Let alone the fact that love of one's hometown is something that is jibidli, it's natural. It's a natural inclination to love where you're from, to be homesick. Nothing like my own city. I moved to this place, I traveled to this place, but nothing's like home. That's natural. That does not need or require faith. So that is a bogus batil hadith. Okay, another example of this, which is not as far as the first two, because this hadith actually has a chain. It actually has an isnad. And there are actually some scholars of hadith who declared it to be authentic. The hadith of Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma that says, أَبْغَضُ الْحَلَالِ إِلَى اللَّهِ الطَّلَاقِ. The most hated lawful thing to Allah is divorce. The hadith is collected by Imam Abu Dawud in his Sunan, and he declared it to be weak. And also Abu Hatim al-Razi and others of other ulama masters. This hadith to be attributed to Prophet is batil. And is only attributed to Abdullah ibn Umar, and it is weak going back to Abdullah ibn Umar. Okay, from the aspect of the chain of narration. As for its actual meten, its text, then the Prophet never said that. Allah makes something lawful, declares it, allows His slaves to do it, but He hates it? That just doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. Okay, the Prophet never spoke with those words. He never talked like that. Allah made it lawful, but He hates it at the same time. Abadan, abadan. What Allah makes lawful, what Allah allows His slaves to do, He loves that act. He loves that act. Okay, so this hadith is a very, very, very famous, popular hadith, and you'll hear it quoted often in lectures, in khutbahs, marriage counseling sessions, divorce sessions. You hear this, and that's hadith. The Prophet didn't say that. Now, what is the ruling on divorce in Islam? Is it the best thing? Of course not. Is it best to try to work it out, to fix and iron out the kinks? Well, there lies no doubt. Can divorce be disliked at certain times? Yes, it can. Can divorce be impermissible at certain times? For sure. Just as divorce sometimes could be recommended. And other times it could be obligatory. But our topic is not on the discussion of talaq and the rulings of the talaq. We're just trying to make a point here. There lies no doubt that the devil loves divorce. As it states in Sahih Muslim, narrated by Jabir ibn Abdullah radiallahu anhuma, what the devil does every morning when he sits upon his throne. And he sends out his stoops and his minions to cause corruption and mischief among the people, to cause mishap and mayhem among the people. And the one who comes saying, I did this, he says, that's nothing. I did that, he says, you did nothing. He says, I continue to bother that man until he divorced his wife. He says, come close. He says, what a good thing you did, and he crowns that demon. So there lies no doubt from this authentic hadith that divorce in general is looked down upon in al-Islam. But it is not something that is hated by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala absolutely. Clear, inshallah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now the concept of hadith criticism and hadith scrutiny obviously cannot be spoken about in this humble introduction, in this simple, basic, elementary book that we're doing, okay? However, it's very, very, very important and critical, pivotal understanding to have that the scholars of hadith have criticized both the chains and the text of the hadith. And the one who says that the scholars only criticize the men and the narrators, then he is ignorant. He hasn't read the books of hadith. Khayran, inshallah. Moving on. Even though in the College of Hadith, this is a course that you take. Okay, you actually take a course in which you understand the introductions, let alone the detailed aspects of hadith criticism, and they actually teach you and train you how to criticize. Now, you take that course. If my memory serves me correctly, I think in the 7th semester of the College of Hadith, and also in the first semester of the master's program in the College of Hadith, they also give you another class which is far deeper. It's far, far deeper and a much more honed blade in which they teach you the science of critique of hadith, which is very vital to the student of hadith. Moving on. Line number 13, the author says, مُعَنْعَنٌ كَعَنْ سَعِيدٍ عَنْ كَرَمٍ وَمُبْهَمٌ مَا فِيهِ رَاوٍ لَمْ يُسَمْ. مُعَنْعَنٌ كَعَنْ سَعِيدٍ عَنْ كَرَمٍ وَمُبْهَمٌ مَا فِيهِ رَاوٍ لَمْ يُسَمْ. Hadith, or line number 13, the author, may Allah have mercy upon his soul, he says, مُعَنْعَنٌ, such as from Sa'id, from Karam. Mubham is the hadith in which there is a narrator who hasn't been named. Literal translation or rendering in English, Mu'an'an hadith is a type of hadith in which its chain says, for example, Sa'id from Karam. Mubham hadith is a hadith whose chain of narration has a narrator whose name has not been mentioned. Khair. We have two more specimens here. The first is called Al-Mu'an'an. The hadith was called Al-Mu'an'an. Mim, Ain, Noon, Ain, Noon. Al-Mu'an'an. And the Mu'an'an hadith, in brief, is a hadith in which the narrator does not directly say that he heard it from his sheikh, that his sheikh told him. In the beginning of the Mandhuma, we explained the first condition of authentic hadith, that is what? We said that it has to be a continuous chain, a chain of narration in which it is fluid. A heard from B, who heard from C, vice versa. Clear? So therefore, an example of this, you would say, or I would say, for an example, I would say, my Sheikh Abdul Muhsin Abad told me. He told me. You understand? He told me. It is a direct tasrih. I'm making a frank, direct statement that I, heard from him and he told me directly. Or I would say, he told us in the circle and the Prophet's masjid. He told us. Everybody clear on that? Or if I said, Sheikh Abdul Muhsin al-Abad said. Sheikh Abdul Muhsin told the students. There are two different ways of saying this. Neither of, well, the second one, you can't really determine whether I heard it or not. I never said I didn't hear it. I never said I wasn't there. I never said that I didn't take a nap or fall asleep in class or get up, use the bathroom or pick up my cell phone. I never said that. But I never told you that I did hear him. In other words, it's dubious. It's in the gray. Do you understand? I'm telling you what he said. It's clear that Muhammad ibn Munir went to Medina, sat in Sheikh Abdul Muhsin's class. It's documented. It's been proven. So he heard from him. That's his sheikh. That's his hadith teacher. However, did he hear this specific report from him? You understand? So therefore, the normal way of narrating will be akhbarani, haddathani, haddathana. Sheikh told us. He told me. That is clear. So if it's proven that I did not hear from him, and I said that he told me or I heard from him, then it's one of two options. Either I'm a liar, a kadhab, or I made a wahm, a bad misinterpretation. I imagined that he told me, but he really didn't say that. You understand? I got it from another student or whatever the case may be. Everybody clear on this? So therefore, the mu'annan hadith is a hadith in which there is no direct mentioning of the sighatul sama', the way in which the narrator heard it or got it from his sheikh. Everybody clear on this? But the thing that makes it more difficult, or not necessarily difficult, but makes it more interesting, is that it doesn't necessarily say that he or she didn't hear it. Clear? And he mentions an example, such as Sa'id from Karam. Two men's names. Or you could say, Sa'id says, Haddathani Karam. Karam told me. But no, he says, I'm from Karam. Clear? And that's going to come later on, the concept of a tadlis in detail. He then says, the second half of the 13th line, وَمُبْهَمٌ مَا فِيهِ رَاوٍ لَمْ يُسَمْ. He says, the Mubham hadith is a hadith in whose chain there is a man who hasn't been mentioned. In other words, going back to the first half of the 13th line, Sa'id an Karam. Let's say Sa'id said, Haddathani Karam. John said that Michael told him. Alright? Now we have John narrated from a man. Who's that man? Who is he? Where's he from? Is he Muslim? What's his memory like? How old was he? Is he of the same mind? Okay? Is he pious? Is he wicked? Is he a sinner? You understand? We don't know. So therefore, that hadith has to be rejected because it's a problem. And it's missing what condition? The first condition is, or the condition is that we don't know the adala. We don't know the religious integrity of equity of the man. Nor do we know of his dabt, his precision, and his exactitude. Okay? Let alone, if it's an unknown person, it doesn't necessarily mean that he heard from him. Even though he could say that. Haddathani rajul. A man told me. Clear. But at least it's missing, two conditions, staple conditions of an authentic tradition with regards to the isnad. Everybody clear on that? So therefore, mubham literally means something that isn't mentioned. Someone who isn't spoken about in detail. He's inexplicitly mentioned. A man told me. A brother told me. Okay, a sheikh told me. Or as some people do, unfortunately, say, the brothers told me. The brothers have said this. Who are the brothers? Billah alaik, by Allah, who are they? To just make a generalization like that? The brothers, who? From among them is who? Who are they? What's their level of knowledge? Integrity. You can't just make up something and just use it as a prop and an authority. Okay? So therefore, you have to say who you narrated from. Okay? Who was the person? And let us look into his career and investigate his life. What is he known for? Is he known to be a liar? Is he known to be a womanizer? Is he known to be a person of sunnah or a person of innovation? And the list goes on. Is he a student of knowledge? Did he study? Does he have scholarship behind him? Or is he a person who just popped up and he gets on the internet and talks about people? Okay? And we don't want to go too far off the subject. The concept that if you're going to take the science of hadith and apply it to other things, then stick to it. And we said this years ago. Years ago. If you're going to take this noble thing right here, then treat it as it's noble. Regard it, respect it, and apply it to all facets, not just to one aspect. So therefore, you cannot just say a man told me, or brother told me, or sheikh told me. We have to know who he is. And if you don't, if you find in the chain mubham, then or a man whose name isn't mentioned, then it is called what? Mubham. Clear, inshallah. And that type of hadith is rejected until it is proven who he is, in another narration, in another chain, in another version, so on and so forth. Okay? And the reason why it's rejected is because it's missing condition 2 and condition 3. Khayr, inshallah. As for the first half of the line, then the hadith is not necessarily rejected, nor is it necessarily accepted. It depends. There's difference of opinion on the issue, but if the narrator is trustworthy, if the narrator is not known to practice tadlis, which will come